Right, I'm going to talk a bit about putting these together. Now these have been drilled out, pre-drilled to 2.5mm, and I have a 3mm by 35mm bolt here, and basically I force it in. And just like cutting a thread in a way, sometimes I'll turn it backwards every couple of turns. Just make sure no sort of swarf is getting trapped in the threads. And that's getting basically forced into the hole. That one's going in reasonably well. Wait until you feel, when it reaches the bottom, you feel some reasonably resistance, so stop immediately you reach the bottom. These holes were drilled to 15mm deep. I think that's enough anyway. You don't have to go all the way, but most of the way, and then just unscrew it quite tight. I can feel it gripping there, quite a lot of friction. So that's in there pretty tight, even though I've unscrewed it quite a bit there now. That's just into the plastic, no inserts, PLA, 0.2 layer height, if that makes much impact, and I can use the same bolt on the next hole. Try putting it in, pushing down as I turn it with my finger and thumb. Just let me get this started. Well, get the screwdriver bit, which is an Allen screwdriver, in there. Let's get started off. Pushing down a little bit to make sure that it does go forward. And basically I keep on going, doing this to all 4 holes on here. I'll talk about the other holes after I've done this one. They are the 4 bolts are sort of tapped in now, and I can pull on them, and I'm honestly pulling pretty hard there. So that gives you an idea. They're pretty strong enough, I think, without any sort of inserts. You can get insert things. I would say the next stage is to put the pawl on. So I'll show you that. Well, actually I have the pawl already fitted. There's a pawl and a pawl button. This has another, it's a M3. Again, drilled out to 2.5. Make sure you're getting the correct side that you're forcing it into. One side has a hole in the pawl, a guide hole in a way. There we are. So that's drilled out to 2.5. Wants to go that way when you're putting it in. Line up the hole with the bolt. Has a bit of an insert sort of thing in the top there. Find where it is. There we are. Screw it in. You can screw it, I think, reasonably tight, if I remember. That's reasonably tight. But you want to have it so, obviously, so that this pawl here, which catches the main top here, catches these teeth, wants to be able to move quite freely. Notice that they have bigger holes in here. I'll talk about this just now. I'll take these 4 bolts out of here first. Now, the reason for these bigger holes, obviously a bolt can move about in there quite freely, is to allow you some movement on this bottom plate. This bottom plate wants to go up this way. Find a bump in the bottom part, or actually, because this is just like a dry test, and that this top part should fit on there somewhere. pop a couple of, well, some of the bolts in, pop all the bolts in, tighten them up, get them lined up, and then tighten them up. I'll come back when I've done that. Well, reasonably tight, not over tight to start off with. So the idea of this having the bigger holes is so that it can move a bit side to side and allow a bit for, otherwise the pawl might be a bit stiff. So keep on testing the pawl as you're tightening up the bolts. Make sure that it can freely move. Now this is just like a dry fitting, what I'm going to call a dry fitting, just to make sure that the parts do sort of fit together. There's no springs, or that's a bit tight, that I might have to drill that hole there a bit deeper. But make sure that the pawl can move reasonably freely and the parts reasonably fit together. See, that one's tightening up, that one there, definitely. I'll have to drill these holes a bit deeper, I think. I will pop the top on, make sure that can turn, push the pawl forward, and that should stop it turning that way. But if you keep a bit of pressure on the pawl, it should like move backwards and forwards a bit, like up and down in a way, as it clicks over if you're turning it this direction. So that's like what would be winding it up, and then when you free it, it unwinds anti-clockwise. Okay. Sorry, the camera just cut out there, battery. I'll undo these again because I'm quite happy with the way that will fit on there and that this pawl can move. It's quite important that that pawl is reasonably free. Obviously it's not totally tightened up there, but I'll drill those holes out a bit deeper and tighten it up. Right, on this one I suggest you tap in from the outside. There is a hole going all the way through first because it's a lot easier. I haven't drilled that out yet, that's why I'm finding it hard to get there. So 2.5mm twist bit. I generally do it by hand because I believe that if you use electric it'll go so fast that it'll create friction and melt the plastic. And this wants to come all the way through. Keep it straight. It's important that it goes straight. This is at a bit of a slant from the thing, but just go gently, and because of the hole that is printed in there, it should find its own way to a large extent. Just a second, my wire's getting caught here in the handle of the drill. So this is 2.5, and it wants to come out just on the edge of that part there. With luck. Try to be careful, try to keep it straight at all times. Clear swap hands here because I find it easier. As it's coming through. So it's right on the edge of this, what I'm calling a peg thing here. It's the same on this part, the shaft, is that the bolt wants to be right on the edge so that when it's screwed in we can actually see part of the bolt. Now the idea there is that the spring will catch on the bolt rather than the plastic, because the spring is relatively sharp and it would gradually wear away the plastic, but on the spring it should help stop that happening, and the head will stop it coming off. Some swarf there. Okay, so I've got that hole there, just about on the edge of that like peg thing. Some of the swarf off, and then I'm going to do a longer bolt first just to get the threads in. Okay, this isn't the bolt I'm actually going to use. I'm going to use a 10mm long 3mm diameter bolt. Let me try mine. I don't like using this because I think this is a bit smaller and sometimes it chews up the heads. But usually it's okay. So just keep screwing that in and I'll come back in a few minutes. So keep on drilling till it comes all the way through, comes out a bit. That's just to put the threads on. Then I'll screwing it in, I should say. Then I'll unscrew it, and then I'll be putting in a bolt from this direction. 10mm or 15mm M3. Okay. Next stage. Well, the next stage would be to drill a hole in here. Pretty much the same in this shaft part with the prowl on. And again screw it in so that the edge of the bolt is right on the edge of the pin type thing. A little bit cleaning off there. While you're working on this, drill a 3.2 or 3.5mm. 3.2 is going to be a bit tighter, and then you want 4mm balls, sort of screwing into those holes. Again, to tap out the threads, same at the bottom, before we move on to the next stage. I'll do that offline. So again, drill to keep it straight, very straight in here. You don't want it going out the edges. 15mm deep, both sides. And then I'm using 15mm M4 bolt just to do the threads. Okay. Now basically, we want the spring put in here. So here is the clockwork spring I'm using. It's opened out quite a bit here. And you can see the shape, and that's why we want a bolt to go over, just be on the edge of, touching that edge there, so that this won't dig into the plastic so much. Now be very careful with springs. They can store a lot of energy. People don't think they can, but they can, and they can be pretty sharp. I mean, this isn't, you know, I can't really cut myself unless I force myself on there, but be very careful. You might want safety goggles on, even gloves. Okay, I'm going to talk about fitting a spring. Now this is a bit unusual, a bit different to what I showed you in the other video. Now first of all, I've got the spring uncoiled. When you uncoil it, let it out very slowly, because it can be dangerous, a lot of power in some springs. Or bent this inner part, this is the inside part, always out like this, with some long nose pliers. Don't go too much, but just enough so that opens out, so that you can get in at the hole that's in it. Just a second. That's better. Got to put this other light on. See the hole there. Now you can tell which direction this goes on, because there is like a wedge shape in this hole, and there's wedge shapes on the parts that's going to fit on to a certain extent. So I'm just doing this as a test. Make sure that can fit over the peg thing. Just a second, let me put these pliers down, because it's a bit, with my hands on the pliers and the springs pulling a bit as well. But that should basically be able to go over the hole. Now you don't want to do this yet, so stop there. First of all, we want this part, which I have the pawl fitted. This is the middle bottom part. The top part goes on there. Okay. Now this is why it's got a notch in, that's for this bump here. Pop that in there, pop it through the gap, that has to be in there. Oh, this is going to be awkward. This has to hook on here a bit. Just a second, a bit of plastic is breaking off there, but that shouldn't be too much problems. Try and hook this. This is the hard part, actually one of the hard parts. The whole spring fitting is a hard part. Sorry about going out of focus here. Try and hook it. Oh, because this is opened out. This edge is opened out a bit because of the I've had the bolt in to see, make sure that, put the bolt in first, make sure that will fit. Oops, it's turned, it hasn't broken off there, it's actually, the thing has turned just as I get on. So get it on, then you want a 3mm by 10mm flange. Make sure that's got a flange. The flange is to go over the gap. Just let me try and move the spring around a bit. Be careful as you're moving the spring. It's quite long. I'm going to have to let go of this while let me put a tiny bit of blue tack on here. So I've got a tiny bit of blue tack. I'm going to pop that on the head if I can. So small I can't even. Get a bit of this on. And that helps hold it on well there, because these are Allen bolts anyway. But the blue tack will probably help hold it on. Let me try this again. Bit fiddly, especially with the camera here. It's a bit probably more fiddly. Find a hole, move this out a bit. Actually, I think I can hook it around this pawl if I think about it. So hook this around the pawl button here. That'll help keep it out the way if I can. Yeah, put that round there. Hope that's not too. So I've got some blue tack on my thumb. Get that out the way. And you can bend this spring if need be. I think it is going to need a little bit of a. Oops, knock that plastic off there, but that's only a bit of spare plastic. We'll try turning in. It's hard to keep this in the camera. Right, that's about it. Let me get this screwdriver type thing, which is an Allen bolt on, to try and clean out the hole a bit. So that blue tack is pretty good at keeping it on. Line it up with a hole. I'm trying to be wary of the angle I'm screwing in at here. I want to be going straight, so I'm going to bend this out quite a bit more. Just using my hands here. Bend it backwards. It should bend back into shape after we've finished. Go along a bit. So I want it like this part bending out quite a bit more. It's reasonably not that sharp, but be careful anyway, the edges aren't too sharp. But be very careful with the other end of the spring, so to speak, that's not flicking about too much when you're doing this. Don't forget this is all prototyping, so now will that be enough? I think I want a little bit more. Yeah, that might be enough. That's so that I can get in here with a screwdriver. Right, start again. And pop that on there. Is that what's going on? It's very awkward for me because, as I say, I've got the tripod here and the spring's catching in the other end of the spring is catching in the tripod, and if you haven't got, you're not trying to video it, then it's going to be a little bit easier. I'm having to keep the angles if I can so that the camera can see. Right, let me try this. So this is magnetic. Can be nuisance magnetics. See that I can feel pressure on that. There's doesn't have to be too much on the plastic because we can line that up a bit better. I'm just screwing that in, as you can see. Hopefully, flange head, don't forget it must be a flange head so that it will keep the spring on it. The spring won't keep jumping off. Just keep going until it gets tight. Don't try to over tighten it. Let me have a look at that. Oh, I think that will hook on that plastic a bit. We'll be fiddling. Just let me try turning that about one more time. That's pretty tight, that screw in there, but it's got some movement on that. Okay, you might notice some shininess on this. This is because I do have some bit of lithium grease on here. Right, do that first. Then I would suggest you have to do this, which is just as hard because you have to get an angle, but basically the same. Okay. So just start feeding the spring in. Remembering that at least in the middle it has been bent backwards. Push it down as we go. Make sure that goes over the head of the bolt that we put in, obviously. Keep feeding it round and round. Make sure it's below the bottom lip. Keep hold of it at all times, because now you're starting to put a bit of pressure on the spring and it will spring out if you let go of it. As I say, there's a little bit of lithium grease, very thin layer of lithium grease on this spring I put on. Just let me move the camera a bit. Give you a slightly different angle there. Keeping hold of it at all times, but gradually turning the base. Pushing down a bit on the spring, so to speak, so that goes in. Hope this is turning the right way around. My first model I did of this, I had it so that would power clockwise, so that was wrong. I want to be powering power wants to be going anti-clockwise for a model diesel engine. You find out that this spring is quite long when you're doing this. I'll probably speed up the video now. Now, I wouldn't call it too hard, a bit fiddly, especially because I'm in the camera. You'll see just how the spring is all curling around. Let me move this over. So that part, that shaft wants to go in the hole at the bottom. Don't forget to keep hold of the spring at all times. Try turning this round. I'm getting somewhere near where it's lining up almost. Just a second, let me move this screw out the way, screwdriver thing out the way. Right, I'll be very careful here. That's almost on the hole. So just take my finger out. Making sure that it's not sticking up, so push it down. Push the spring down so it's not coming up above the edge. I think that is it, and it's through the hole at the bottom. Bit of blue tack on there. Okay, so that's that. Just give the basic test is that you would wind it up that direction, then let the power would let go and flick back. Yep. Now what I would suggest that you want to put some lithium grease in here. I've already put a little bit of lithium grease in mine, so I'm not going to do that. A bit of blue tack on there, on the pawl. Let me get that off, wherever it is. See, there's lithium grease on here as well. Pop that on there. Well, this has to go on top, but make sure you're not breaking the pawls. So keep on turning it this way as you're pressing, well, pushing down lightly, I would say. Make sure the hole is lining up. You have to use a screwdriver like type thing to line it up. I'm going to keep pushing down very lightly and almost hoping that those will click in. You can hear them clicking, they're meant to click. They're not breaking. Right, I think that's it, because it is out at the bottom a bit. Didn't like the sound of that. Right, so I'm going to put this, now we want a 4mm bolt here, flange head, and two of these plastic washers. There's two plastic washers on there. They're stuck together with big grease there actually. Let me put this down, still being careful, not knocking it, because the spring, oh, I forgot the other spring. There's another spring to go in for the pawl. Let me screw that bottom in first, because that's okay, I think. So we'll find out anyway. So much grease about, you have to grip the bits with a towel, because there's too much grease on them. So I'm just changing bits over here for one for suitable for a 4mm bolt. Now can I do that? Can I still take the top off? Yes. So that wants to go in a hole which has been pre-tapped, don't forget. completely. I'm not getting in the way here. Turn it backwards a bit first, like a normal screw. Yeah. Now this bit is quite a good fit in the head. The other one, the smaller one, tends to be just a little bit looser. It can choke the head sometimes, so you have to be very careful using the one for 3mm. Right, that's in there tight, but it has got these washers on. Actually, just want to slacken it off a tiny bit. Just so that the washers can turn. I can turn the washer. Keep hold of the top part. Now I need to be taking this top back off because I forgot the Paul spring. Let's fiddle this about a bit. Sorry if the lights are flickering there, it's my... So again, turning it as I sort of almost in a way unscrew it. Take this off. Being careful with these parts because we have that spring under a bit of tension there. Not total tension, but a bit. And we want this smaller spring to go. There is a bit of a hole in the back of the pawl and a bit of indent in this part. Just push that in so that's resting on there. Make sure it doesn't spring out. Pop that on. I almost forgot about that one. We can actually, I can screw this together to a certain extent. 35mm M3 balls. You've got, as I said, there's bigger holes in this plate here so that you can move this about a bit to line it up if the pawls aren't like being heaved themselves, if the pawl isn't being heaved itself. Right, that's been a bit awkward for some reason. Oh, because the spring is pushing forward, that's right. So the spring is pushing that forward and stopping this turning. To line it up a bit. Right, that's, let me... I know this video will go on a long time, but it does take some time to do this. Let me make sure that that bump is in the right place, which it isn't. You can tell by the hole in it where the sort of bolt inside comes. So now at last I've got that somewhere in line. Keep some pressure on all the parts together until you get it screwed together. So I would say you want this slightly, very slightly loose, just so you can make sure that the pawl is moving. Well, get a couple of these in. Well, get them all in maybe. As I say, there's a bit of lithium grease on these parts which make it a little bit slippy for me. I like my other screwdriver better actually, but as I say, this one seems sometimes chews up the heads a bit because I think it's slightly, very slightly wrong size. Well, it's much easier to use than that other one, so you can twist this quite quick. It's just starting to get tight there, so stop. So these are 35mm long M3, just normal button headed balls, no flanges on these. So I'll just go around doing this to all four. There we are, all four. Not too over tight to start off with. Make sure that we'll try and line this up a bit as much as you can without the... I think mine, when it's printing a bit out of skew. Now there is a thing in Marlin where you can line up the skew of the printer, hold that together and tighten them up. So you want to make sure that the pawl can move. So you can hear that clicking, it's clicking in the thing. That's going to be tuning the head up if I don't be careful with this one. I can get them pretty tight with this one before I have to change over to my other screwdriver. It's reasonably tight. Let me check this pawl, make sure that the pawl can, let's see, might make a bit of scraping noise. So there's very thin lithium grease on most of the parts here. That's okay. Now I might need a thing in here so I can turn it, so I can grip it. Let me try this towel first. So that's very tight. It's very tight. Actually it isn't. Just a second. This is the screwdriver. It's basically the visual. But this screwdriver X is much better than the head and the elbow on my other one. So let's check it. Make sure that I can't pull these. Make sure you can't pull these back in carefully down the screen. There's a bit of gap there, so you can see that move at a tiny bit. I'm going to do that all. Just a little bit deeper, actually. This one. That's fair. That was a bit as well. Just go around checking that they are all tight. Push it quite firmly. This screwdriver. Right, that's alright. Check. Right, that's alright. Everything is everything. Check the pawl. Yep. Right, now let's put the top back on. I say push this up till it won't go up any further. Put this turning piece on. Again, turn it round as I'm trying to almost, in a way, like screw it on, but going backwards. The last thing we want to do is break the pawls off, so don't force it. Particularly when they click out like that, you should have a bit of movement. No, it's not going. You have a look. Oh, quite a bit of hairs there. Get that out. So you've got lithium grease on. Or what you probably have to do is pull the pawl back so that you can do this. I think that's what's been stopping it. Let me try and get this in line first of all. Just moving it over with this screwdriver. Right. It's resting on the pawl now. Now when I pull the pawl, turn it round a few times, keeping the pawl pulled out on its spring. That's alright. We need again another 4mm flange head, 2 washers on there. Where's my 4mm flange head? I know this video is probably quite a bit long, but it is quite a detailed job to do this. Let me get these two washers on this bolt first. Stick them up there. So this is a flange head. It has like almost like a washer almost built into it. Line that up with the hole. Let me get my other bit on. Ready? Get that in there with the hole. There we are. I think that's somewhere near. Go backwards a little bit to make sure that the threads aren't crossing, because there are threads already in a way cut into the hole by making this bolt go into it without anything. I just keep screwing that down, as you see there. So as I'm screwing it in here, I'm turning the washers until I stop and then turn it back a bit. Basically that should be okay for a test. Can I zoom out more? No? Seems to be zoomed in quite a bit here. So I should be able to turn this, wind it up like this way. See, you can see it and hear it clicking on the pawl. Let me just do a couple of turns first. Let's release the, yep, that's okay. I can feel these parts moving about a bit, so I need to tighten these bolts up, but you can get in at these bolts. You might have to drill the holes just a bit deeper actually. So I think it's 8 or 9 full turns you can give of this. Mind your fingers. Now this part will basically just go in there, and that's to go on the model diesel engine. That's one of those rubber sort of fittings on there to go on the model diesel engine propeller. So that's done quite a few times. Bloody hell, that's got some power. Doesn't have. Seems to have more power than when I did it before. Excuse me. It's a little bit slippy this actually, still, because I've got lithium grease all over my fingers. You want a bit of lithium grease under here. Now this hole here is for oiling. You can put a few drops of oil in there. Make sure it's not sort of coming back out. Still got some blue tack on the edge here. So you let it get a bit tight like that. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oof. I would say give about 10 tries of that before you put this on there. Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to probably drill these holes a little bit deeper, because I think I can just about feel it. So you might see a gap there. Just moving very slightly. I'll do that first, and I'll put this on. But that's good. Always leave it unwound. Make sure you have it unwound. You need to keep this pawl pulled out all the time it's working. Okay. Try to keep your fingers and thumbs and everything else behind this safety plate here. danger. That's why it says it, because this is where the propeller will be sort of starting up.